Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back on the AgriAdventures social platform, actually, I have to say, because now we are on YouTube, we are obviously on Facebook and Instagram, we are on Radio Italia Udder Delights for who's following us today, and also we are on podcasts now. So we're going to be on many different platforms on podcast. So for who's following us the first time, AgriAdventures, the radio program, it's more correlated with the interviews with the food producers in South Australia and overseas. So we speak with the food producers about what they're doing, why they decide to do it, and where they are looking to go. Today we are with Sheree. Thank you, Sheree. Sheree or Sheree, by the way?
Sheree.
Sheree, okay. Sorry, I'm Italian. I always have to
Yes.
a little bit. So, Sheree, thank you to be with us on the AgriAdventures platform in the 50 minutes interview, and welcome. So, Sheree, straight away, little question. Why did you end in this business that is cheese making?
It's a good question, and it's not a career that I planned for or started in. Interestingly, when I was growing up, I loved food and I loved cooking, but I never ever considered a career in the food industry. And I think if I grew up and MasterChef and those TV shows were around, I would have thought, oh, food's a career, but I actually didn't. I just loved food. But I also really loved music and I loved a few other subjects as well. So I actually ended up going to university at Adelaide University, and I got into a really small little section called Elder Conservatorium, and I did a 3-year degree on a jazz piano. So, and then while I was doing that, my parents moved our family to the Adelaide Hills, and we grew up in the suburbs of Adelaide. They moved us to the Adelaide Hills, and it was about a retirement plan for them. It was about, when we retire, let's have a great garden and let's have a property and let's start a business that will bring us some income when we retire. So for that reason, we ended up in Lobethal, and I remember them telling me, we've bought 33 acres of easterly facing slopes and good bore water. And I remember thinking, I actually don't know what you're talking about. And so they had done all this research and they decided they were going to become raspberry farmers while working full-time in the city. And in it all, there was a rundown dairy on the property. And then they also decided, let's just get a few goats. And it was just going to be for home use, and goats eat raspberry cuttings. And, you know, it was just a bit of that. But within a few months, my parents thought, actually, let's become a goat dairy and let this be a business as well. And to give you an idea, this was like sort of mid-1990s, so let's say 95, 96.
Okay.
And then it was really hard to sell the milk. And it was very much an emerging industry in Australia. And in frustration, they just said, I think we need to build a cheese factory. We need to get some value add. We need to get some brand. And the reason is that they could build. They were builders. So they weren't sort of limited by that, but they didn't know how to make cheese though. So they said, let's build a cheese factory, not knowing how to make cheese, but thinking at least it will use their milk. And so by the time I finished uni, which was the end of 1998, they had built a tiny little factory. They had a brand. So my brother thought of the name Udder Delights. They were employing a cheesemaker. They were working full-time elsewhere to bring money in while they were milking and running a raspberry farm. They were working crazy hours. And then at that point, nothing was selling. And I said to my parents, hey, why don't you put me on commission and I'll just get out there and sell this product, and I'll teach music and I'll perform. And so half of my income at that point was music and half of it became cheese, like selling cheese. And I went out into the Adelaide sort of marketplace and had to learn all about the food industry and how it worked. And I said to shop owners, hey, do you want to put this cheese on consignment? If you don't sell it, you don't pay for it. Wow. And they were like, great idea. And I was just winging it. I was just flying by the seat of my pants. And I said to them, and what I'll do is I'll just do lots of tastings for you. And that's what I did. I was just out in the market doing cheese tastings. And then within 6 months, the cheesemaker resigned and we had no cheesemaker. And I said to my mum and dad, I'll teach myself how to make cheese. And that's how I became the head cheesemaker of Udder Delights.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is really interesting challenge of someone that definitely has an entrepreneurial mentality, because the solving problems and learning to adapt and teaching itself is probably really, really one of the skills that you need if you want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I can see that it's a successful mentality, because Udder Delights, for people that's following us, it's really successful cheese company in the Adelaide Hills in Hahndorf. So and it's really nice to see that if you love and you have passion, you can achieve the goals that you see coming to the horizon. Like my father is a musician too, and I know how deep you have to go if you have to be a musician. So that gives you the skills.
Yeah.
Try now to understand, like you in the cheese factory with the cheeses that you play the drums, listening at the noises and say, okay, this is ready to go and this is one is not. So that's kind of interesting.
I do have a theory around the music correlation, and it's two things. And one is that you need a lot of discipline to be a musician, because I practiced the piano or organ every single day from the age I was 5 to the age of 21. Like I was practicing from when I was 5, 10 minutes a day to 2 to 3 hours a day by the time I'm at university. And it teaches discipline and focus. And it teaches your brain to always learn something new. And the other part of it is I've got the maths music brain, and that's a common correlation that often if you're good at music, you're good at maths. And so coming into business, I feel like you need half of it creative, and then you need the other half rational, numbers, and all that sort of side. And that's why I have really loved the entrepreneurship in the food industry, because I get to use creativity, I get to use maths, and I get to be in food.
You still are a musician. Are you still playing around?
I do, but I don't play professionally. I'm happy to leave that for my personal life.
Okay, well, that is nice.
Yeah.
Tell us something to us about Udder Delight. Like, what's the size and what do you produce over there?
Yeah. So when we began, obviously we started as a goat cheese business because we had goat milk. Within about 5 years, my husband, I got married and we went to my mum and dad and said, hey, do you want to sell us some of the business? So we then purchased half of the business and continued to run it. And at that point, we recognized that just relying on goat milk was quite risky, because goat milk is either in feast or famine. There's either too much or there's not enough. And so we started diversifying into cow milk. And interestingly today, so we've been going for 22 years now, cow milk now makes up more of our business than goat. So cow milk's probably 90% of our business, goat probably 10. And when I was first making, I remember doing 60 litre batches. And when you're making cheese, it's about 10% yield. So I was probably making like 6 kilo batches, 10 kilo batches, thinking I've got so much work to do, and my week was probably 1,000 litres in a week. And these days we do 160,000, 180,000 litres of milk a week. And I never, ever would have thought that, when we began. It probably, to be honest, would have been too daunting and overwhelming to know that. So we've got about 60 staff at our cheese factory in Lobosal. And we've got about 10 staff at our Hahndorf, so our cheese cellar door, which is our public face, our tourism outlet is there, but we sell all around Australia, mainly so cow milk, but we've really found a niche in brie and camembert space. So we do triple cream bries, ash bries, truffle bries, camemberts, and that's what we mainly do. That probably makes up 80% of our business, but we also do fresh cheese and blue cheeses as well.
Oh, by the way, I've seen you have an organic milk.
Yes,
is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Why did you decide to go on an organic?
So about, I'm going to say about 10 years ago, we heard about a dairy in Langhorne Creek that was getting 30 cents a litre for organic milk, and they were going to shut. And we were like, no, 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 that can't happen. So we approached them and we made contact with them. And straight away we said, we'll double your milk price. And we started taking a bit of their milk and turning it into some organic cheese. So we ended up creating a whole new brand for that milk called Divine Dairy. But organic milk also goes through some of our Udder Delights brand through a really big business called Costco. But that dairy farmer came to us maybe 6 months later and said, look, can you just take all my milk? And we committed to doing that. So it's more expensive. But I remember the mum came to us and said, I remember her saying to my husband, can you hug me because you've saved our family farm? You know, things like that. Like we don't milk anymore, but we were a dairy farmer and we know how it feels to be treated.
Yes.
And so we really try to look after our dairy farmers and pay them fairly and not mess them around, because we know what it feels like. And I think when you've been there, you have more empathy and you understand about what it's like to be the primary producer.
How was COVID for you guys?
Yeah, it's actually been really interesting. When COVID first hit around that April, May, and remember when there was no toilet paper for a month? Everyone went crazy buying food, and it was almost like Christmas. And I think that everyone stocked up, including on cheese. And then May came, and then all the restaurants shut by then. And the restaurants are 30% of our business. So all of a sudden we're like, uh-oh. And then everyone stopped buying food. And I think it's because they realized I just bought 2 months worth of food last month. And so the month of May was quite nerve-wracking for us because we were still buying in 150,000, 180,000 litres of milk a week that we didn't need. That we thought, we sort of said, right, we're going to wait till the end of June. We're going to see what happens. But until then, we're going to keep buying this milk because we felt like we could sustain it, the loss, longer than going to a dairy farmer saying, we're not buying your milk anymore. So, but then fortunately by the end of June, the market rebounded. And ever since then, we actually haven't been able to keep up with demand in Australia. And I have a theory. I think it's because the planes aren't coming in internationally like they were, and the French cheese isn't getting in as easily. And it's more expensive, and people have really worked out that local's the way to go. So in Australia, I think most Australian cheesemakers are struggling to keep up with demand at the moment, which is awesome in that our international competition has fallen away and the demand for local has increased.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is one of the really good things that happen. I've seen happen, you're right. I've seen happen in many other businesses, especially the local businesses.
Yeah.
Now, for people that's following us, where will be possible for them to find Udder Delight? I mean, not just where, in terms of the cheese cellador in Hahndorf, but also I assume you have a Facebook page, an Instagram page.
Yeah.
There's all socials and a website. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So if you just go to the udderdelights.com.au website, it leads you to all the social pages, so the Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. But even just all around Australia, you can buy our product, our cheese, through independent supermarkets. They're such a great customer of ours, and independent grocers, Foodlands, IGAs, Foodworks. Coles have actually been really good to work with over the years, and you can get our cheese through a lot of Coles supermarkets, and also Costco have been excellent to work with as well. So that's some of the places you can get our cheese through. But if you live in Adelaide, you can visit us in Hahndorf.
Exactly. Yeah. And are you also selling online through your?
No, do you know, it's the one thing we don't do. We sell packages online in terms of tourism experiences, but we don't deliver cheese or do cheese boxes. It's just a part of the business we haven't decided to go down yet. And I'd say it's because we're struggling to keep up just in the normal retail channels right now. So we haven't really got the room or capacity to do more.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because you're helping mainly also the whole local industry because you're not selling directly. So apart these experiences, so people can go through again the distribution chain, and the distribution chain knows that they can rely on you. So it's a really interesting exchange. And now the final question and that I generally ask is where you think you would like to go, you're as a business partner in this Udder Delight company. Like, what is the vision? What would you like to achieve?
Yeah, so we've been really focused for 20 years on making really good cheese really accessible to the people. And I was born and bred in Elizabeth, so I'm not sure if you're familiar where that is in Adelaide. And some people would say, you know, it's a bit of a down and out area. And I lived there till I was 18, and it's really formed who I am. And I'm not poshy, and I'm not cheese is so gourmet. I actually want really good cheese to be accessible to anyone who just wants to access really good food. So we work really hard at creating delicious cheese that I sort of say that's for the people as en masse, you know, and I want them to be able to access it at a good price and find it relatively easy. So that's really what we're about, but in particular in that white mold space, just making the most delicious bries. So we've obviously just launched a truffle brie. I would love to, over the next year or two, launch a blue brie. Whether or not we can get there, I'm not sure. But that's what I'm about. I just want really delicious cheese, but I just want it to be something that people love and can find and purchase really easily.
This is nice. Yes, definitely is a challenge to be able to provide a good quality food to everyone. It's and then if you think about cheese, is that like it was born like that. It was not a fancy place that you pay tons of money to a slice. It was an everyday way to preserve milk for the family.
Yes,
so
right.
Definitely is amazing thing. So thank you, Sheree, for your time over here in the AgriAdventures program platform. And definitely we'll organize to come along with people, and for the people that's following us on the radio, you know, you are in Adelaide, you're not really far away, so you just have a little step in Hahndorf. It's what, 30 minutes away?
Yeah, once you're on the freeway, yes.
Exactly. Even the bus. There is an amazing bus that goes from Adelaide to Hahndorf. You don't have even to think to get the car. Go over there, stop to Udder Delights. If there is no Sheree, definitely there is going to be somebody else who's going to look after you, and you're going to taste all these beautiful cheeses and other things, because I noticed that you trying to support the wool production around, because I've seen a lot of products that they are in your shop, and then you're sharing this space with other producers. So it's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll see you again.
Thank you so much. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.